All right, Dr. Ron, this is what you do for a living. You analyze these crime scenes. Many times it's police-involved shootings. When you see this video, break down what you see for us.
Yeah, essentially, what we do is we do a reconciliation of the information, circumstances, statements, facts, and forensic evidence. Everybody is going to give you a representation, a statement. That doesn't necessarily mean that that statement is a credible statement. The statements have to ultimately, as much as reasonably possible, has to support everything we're seeing. In this particular case, we're fortunate enough to have some forensic video media evidence that outlines much of what happened. So you have several different things that we have to consider here in our investigation. First of all, what was the collective knowledge of the McMichaels, Gregory and Travis? What was their knowledge? Was it reasonable for them to effect a detention? Now, one of the problems we're going to have here, especially for Gregory McMichaels, he's had a long law enforcement career, 7 years with the Glenn County Police Department there, and then several more years actually as a district attorney investigator. And so he's retired from law enforcement. So he understands probable cause, reasonable suspicion, and the elements of the detention that has to be satisfied before he can do that. Then, of course, we have the brandishing of a weapon and ultimately the use of deadly force. And the Georgia statutes, and I'm qualified in the Georgia courts, and everything that would be involved in this case. Handled recently a high-profile homicide there. So I can absolutely tell you that when people assert self-defense, we have to look at what is objectively reasonable based on totality of circumstances. And so we can see in the video that they basically encountered this man. They were the people that initiated the encounter. And Mr. Arbery is dressed in jogging clothes. You can clearly see his hands while he's jogging. And so, even for a person that was a former police officer, we look at what's incriminating. What kind of information are you seeing, and what type of behavior are you seeing from this individual that would lead you to believe that he was involved in any criminal activity whatsoever? Or is what he doing, in other words, jogging, and he's dressed in jogging clothes, is that exculpatory or more reasonably innocent behavior? Then there is the physical encounter between, Mr. McMichael and Mr. Arbery. And how does that take place? And well, it is the direct brandishing of a gun. It is stopping someone. You're detaining them. And there's an immediate threat of deadly force where Mr. Arbery, as a citizen who doesn't know these people, it might be entirely reasonable for him to believe that they intend to harm him, and that the harm is a deadly force threat that's imminent. So the question that investigators would look at, and a trier of fact, is would it be objectively reasonable for Mr. Arbery to grab that shotgun and try to point that shotgun away from him, or try to disarm Mr. McMichael because he has a legitimate fear of great bodily injury or death? So there are a lot of things that we have to take a look here. What is remarkable for me as a person who's worked in Georgia and worked homicide case in Georgia is that it took over 2 months and 3 different prosecutors to try to figure out what happened in this case. The initial investigation that was conducted, and then causing the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, the GBI, to come in. And it's also remarkable that GBI was able to satisfy the elements of probable cause sufficient to secure warrants for the arrest of both Gregory and Travis McMichael for the crime of homicide.